Done Yet, the podcast celebrating life, challenging ageism, and proving that retirement is just the beginning. Before we kick off, we'd just like to say a big thank you to everybody who listened to our first episode on YouTube, and welcome all the new subscribers to our YouTube channel. Please help us spread the word by sharing our podcast with anyone you think might be interested in it. Not Done Yet is brought to you by the Civil Service Retirement Fellowship, a national charity specialising in supporting former civil servants and their dependents through charitable services built around friendship and advice. But this is the space where experience meets curiosity, wisdom meets possibility, and where we ask a simple question: what comes next? Each episode, we chat to inspiring people who are redefining their later lives, from embarking on new careers and creative projects to volunteering, learning, activism, and adventure, or all of the above. Because retirement isn't the end of the story, it's just the start of a new chapter. And if you're listening to us now, the chances are you're not done yet either. So, some general introductions. My name is David Tickner, and I'm the Chief Executive of the Civil Service Retirement Fellowship. And I'm very pleased to introduce my podcast pal and partner in crime, Denise Headley. Denise is the CSRF's Deputy Chief Executive and also an experienced broadcaster herself, running her own weekly podcast on politics and world affairs. And for this episode, we have CSRF royalty in the house joining us today. So it's a great pleasure that we welcome our former National Honorary Treasurer and now CSRF Vice President and National Book Club member, the wonderful Jenny Rowe. So Jenny, welcome to Not Done Yet.
Thank you, David. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
There you go. Well, it's not every day we have royalty in the house. So
Okay.
we're going to start you with a very easy starter for 10. When did you know that you weren't done yet?
Oh, well, I knew when I made a decision to retire from full-time work, I knew then that I wasn't done. And I used to say to everybody, I'm retiring from this job, but I'm actually going on to the next phase of my life. And it's a phase where I should have more freedom to decide what I'm going to do. And if necessary, to say, well, I've tried that and I don't want to do it anymore. Thank you. So, you know, I always expected it to be not done yet.
And did you, when you were approaching that, how much thought did you give to the whole retirement planning phase of your life? I mean, was it something you obviously, from what you said initially, you reflected on it quite a lot about the sort of next step and knowing that you didn't want to be done yet? But how much
No.
thought did you give to the actual planning of that moment in your life?
Well, I suppose not as much as some people might do. I mean, I utilise the FDA's financial planning mechanism because I thought I better talk to somebody about money and, you know, what I should be doing and not doing. So I did that. And in fact, that was really probably the biggest initial decision that my now late husband and I had to make was where were we going to live? Because we were in the position where we didn't have to live anywhere in particular if I wasn't working. I mean, when I was working in central London, you know, you have to be in reasonable proximity unless you want enormously demanding travel, which I didn't. And we each had family in different parts of the country, and it was quite a difficult decision to work out where, if we were we going to move at all, and if we were, where were we going to move? So I probably spent more time thinking and talking about that than some other things in terms of planning. And
Yeah.
you know, we did decide that we were going to move, and we did start looking for property where I now live, and we did spend quite a lot of time on that, so that in fact I officially retired from work on the 2nd of October, which is my birthday. We moved house on the 15th of October.
Wow.
We moved full move of location on the 15th.
So you had to deal with two of the more seismic events in people's lives, moving house and retirement within a 2-week period. But just going back one step to the whole where you were living obviously was higher priority.
Yeah.
How did you approach that? I mean, were you scouring the Sunday Times best places to live in the UK, or was
No.
overseas a consideration? Or
No, overseas was never a consideration.
oh, is it not? Okay.
No, I mean, I'm from the West Country originally. I'm from Cornwall, and I didn't want to go right back home,
Yeah.
but I was quite in for, moving back towards into the southwest. And in fact, John, my husband, he'd spent quite a bit of time in Plymouth working, when I can't remember when now. And so he was up for that. But we needed to be somewhere that was accessible to his family in North London and Hertfordshire. And bearing in mind the fact that I knew I was still going to be doing some things in London, both paid and charity trustee work. And so, and we one Easter, it must have been in Easter 2014. Was it 2014, 2013? I can't remember now. We had a weekend in Topsham, where I now live.
Hmm.
We stayed there for the Easter weekend, and we liked it. And we thought, well, let's just start looking at property around here just to see what the property prices are like. Topsham, for those people listening who don't know, is just outside Exeter, which has pretty good transport links in terms of there's an airport, there's a good train service to London and to Cornwall. And so we went from there. So we started looking. We didn't start looking seriously, I suppose, until late 2014, early 2015. But we started then doing planning because, I mean, I was thinking, well, let's see what we can afford to begin with. So yes, that's how it happened.
Very good.
Could I just ask you a quick question, Jenny? So, when you spoke about the original financial planning, did you think about the emotional side of retirement? Because, okay, you said you were moving, and that's a big upheaval, but did you think about how you would, face not having the same type of structure in a particular way? Because when you're at work, the phone's ringing, you've got emails to answer, you're in demand, and in a sense, you're very needed. But when you move into retirement, all of those work pressures move, and it does create a different emotional tapestry. Did you have that as in your purview at all?
I did a bit, but not that much, to be frank. Because I already knew I had a couple of things lined up that I was going to continue doing, and something which I applied for when I knew I was going to retire, a voluntary activity here locally. And I thought, well, I mean, yes, I suppose you're right. I mean, the issue about structure, I did think about, because you wake up in the morning and you think, oh, do I need to get up? What do I, what do I do, kind of thing. But
Time for breakfast. I can choose this morning.
oh, well, yes, precisely. But I'd already lined up some things which I knew would give me a structure, not the sort of structured existence you have when you're at work. And I knew that I wanted to retire from the full-time work grind. Not because I didn't enjoy my job or anything like that, but because I thought it was the right time for me to leave that particular job and for someone else to come in and take over. I mean, it's a great place to work, loved it. But I got to the stage where I think, yes, things are coming round and round again, and I really don't want to do this again. Because quite
So it was
often,
a sort of change of circumstance, was it? I mean,
yeah,
you've got to a point
absolutely.
where you've done it all and you want something new.
Yes,
Was that where?
precisely. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And my husband was quite a lot older than I was, and so I had to balance the hope that we might spend some time together, and that also weighed on me at the time.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, the emotional side is important, and I guess it depends on the extent to which you get from work your sense of being and belonging.
I think that's a really important point because
And I guess to a certain extent we all do,
Oh
mm,
yeah.
but I I didn't it wasn't sort of exclusively where I got, my sense of who I was.
But I think what I would say, sorry, just to put it's in my head, and I'll come back to you in a minute. But what I would say about that is, I mean, if you take the civil service, I mean, obviously we all know the civil service very
Yeah.
well. There is something about that institution that does, you know, once you're in it and you've worked in it for a long time, you are, you know, that reorientation of what's are out. I mean, for example, we've done several workshops in the last 12 months all about planning for retirement. We've delivered them at Civil Service Live, we've done them to departments, which have been great because we've had great interaction with people who, some of which are a long way from retirement, but some of which are about to approach it. And they've all reflected on that whole, you know, you are actually part of a team, whether it, you know, whether it's a department, whether it's a sub team, whether it's a small group, but you know where you sit in the scheme of things. And then suddenly when you leave, that whole where you sit in the whole structure completely falls away, and you've got to find that structure in retirement to obviously ensure that you've got focus. And coming back to your point before about getting out of bed in the morning and having a reason for doing that and all the rest of it. Sorry, Dee, I very rudely cut into you as you were about to.
No, it's okay. It's cool, because what I was thinking along those same lines, Dee, because one of the things that I've learned anyway is about thinking other than just about the financial planning. And what I thought was quite interesting, what Jenny said, was that I already had things lined up. So in a sense, you kind of prepared for the transition. Whereas I think what we've come across in the past is that some people, they don't prepare for the transition. They do the financial exercise and then they know everything's set, but they don't prepare for the transition. So for example, you might have changes in your family structure, you might have bereavement, you might have children returning home, or sort of young adults returning home, and that then puts different kind of energies and frequencies and potential pressures onto the relationship. And I was quite, when you said you had things lined up, were those things that you had lined up in line with some of the areas of your previous work? Because I noticed here you were principal private secretary to the Lord Chancellor. Then you also were the Lord Chancellor's department. You head of criminal policy, and was appointed as the principal private secretary to the Lord Chancellor. So those are like really high-powered jobs with specific types of interests, maybe policy, criminality, I don't know.
Not to mention, I just have to throw in here to embarrass Jenny even more, the first female head of the UK Supreme Court.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a pretty significant achievement. So
exactly. All these areas, I'm thinking, did you then say to yourself, I want to work in, or I want to volunteer in a particular capacity, or I want to sit on a trust in a particular capacity and get those things organized? Were they in your interest as well?
Sorry?
Were they in the areas of your work interest, or where you'd already had opportunities to, learn stuff?
Well, I've done a variety of different jobs over the years, but I've been mostly around the justice system.
Yeah.
And one of the first voluntary job I applied for, when I was coming up to retirement, was to be on the independent monitoring board at Exeter Prison.
yeah.
Now, I had never done prison policy or prison work at all. So although I understood the justice system, I had no direct experience of prison, I hasten to add. So that was a different aspect of the justice system, and it was something local. And I thought, well, I can probably offer something here, and so I joined. So I retired in the October, and I joined the IMB at the end of December 2015. And in fact, I've just stood down from it after 10 years. I thought 10 years was probably enough.
So this is your second retirement, Jenny.
well, yes, but yes, sort of, David, yes. But that was a voluntary activity. But other things that I have done have not really been connected with the work I did. I mean, undoubtedly, I've been able to use skills I developed at work, which is something when I first started branching out, when I was still working, into doing some voluntary activity, I wasn't at all sure that I had transferable skills, which I think is what a lot of civil servants do think at times. I've always worked in X. How can I possibly help with Y?
Yeah.
But I applied to become a trustee of the Royal British Legion, and I joined their board as one of the first 6 appointed trustees, and I was pleasantly surprised myself at the transferable skills I had, and I suppose that gave me confidence to try other things both before I retired and afterwards, because I thought, well,
I think
actually, I
it's
can offer something here.
exactly, and I think it's very interesting. I mean, you're talking particularly about the charity sector. I mean, it's been the last couple of years at Civil Service Live, the Charity Commission has actually had a stand. And I think that's sort of long overdue because, as you quite
Yeah,
rightly say, and as I have said in our workshops, the skills and professional development you have as a civil servant are extremely transferable when you actually sit down and consider.
yeah,
There are a lot of charities out there that would be scrambling over each other to get
yeah,
that level of skill and development in on their sort of at a board level. And so I think it's a good idea that the Charity Commission generally is saying, actually, you as a civil servant, whether you are still working, whether you're not, this is something you should give some consideration to. And not to forget, of course, if memory serves me correct, you also joined our board before
I
you
did.
actually retired.
I
So
did.
you were
Yeah, I did.
a serving civil servant as our national treasurer, I think for 2 years
At
before,
least, yes, it
at
was.
least
Yeah.
2 years before you then actually took
Yeah, I
retirement.
was. I was. And I think what's important for people coming up or thinking, well, I might retire in 2 or 3 years' time, is to do a bit of, self-analysis or with a bit of help saying, well, what have I been doing? Because I mean, people like me have been working at board level for quite some time. So you're used to developing and implementing strategy. You're used to leadership in its different capacities. You're used to having to deal with difficult HR issues, all those kinds of things. And once you really stop and think about it, you have experience which can be used by other organizations, governance, risk, all those things which most organizations want experience of these days, and most people will have that.
Yeah.
Do you think that most retirement planning considerations don't think about A, the transferable skills, B, whether or not I'm even motivated to go there? Because I think also that personal motivation sometimes comes far later after the first amount of retirement, after you realize it's not an extended holiday, you then start thinking about things. And I think there's a real dearth in retirement planning that doesn't look at the emotional side, it doesn't look at the family side, it doesn't look at how you deal with feeling low and depressed and demotivated. What clothes do I decide to wear if I haven't been going to work for 5 years? I mean,
No.
simple things like that. I feel like there is a real gulf in a way. And what you're saying, and to me, is that you kind of conceptualize that a lot, a lot before, which not everybody that we've come across has.
No, I mean, I did start to think about it because I mean, taking the decision to retire when you don't have to, if you see what I mean. I mean,
Yeah.
I could have stayed working. But I knew I was coming up to the magic age of 60, and I would be entitled to draw down my civil service pension. And that really made me think. And I did think for some months about what I should do. Should I carry on a bit longer? You know, because when you've got that element of choice, you really have to think about it. It's not like it used to be that at age 60, that was it, out the door. I had the freedom to decide. And I would say to people, start thinking about your options a year or two before you actually need to, and just start looking around and seeing what there is and really think about what you want to do. I mean, some people, they just want to go off and travel, which is absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I'm one
That
of
is one of the most popular when you say to
those.
people, what are you looking forward to the most? I
Yeah,
think travel alongside, I mean, there are actually quite a few people who fed back in our workshops who said we're looking forward to doing more time on our hobbies, or in some cases,
Yeah.
like cottage industry, starting a small business.
yeah,
I've always had this idea. I really want to, finally, I'm going to have more time to actually do that. I mean, I think it's interesting because, I mean, coming back to that point about taking that step into retirement, I mean, I think from my perspective, you obviously, you're saying about you could have worked longer if you wanted. I'm not looking forward to it for the simple reason I'm single. And for me, work is life, in the sense that sounds very sad. The only thing I've got going on in life is work. But to a degree, that is the way in which you operate. I mean, yes, I've got social elements, but at the same time, is very much focused on, I know my purpose. I know what I have to do. I know what my focus is. I've got a reason to come back to our point about getting out of bed in the morning. And
yeah.
it scares the living daylights out of me, the idea of swapping that. Now, I do voluntary work outside of work, which I think, as you quite rightly said earlier, Jenny, I mean, that's a useful, I suppose, stepping stone, isn't it? If you've done that,
It is, yeah.
then sort of looking beyond. But it still scares the living hell out of me being single. And when you get to the point where you're not motivated or focused on what you do, I suppose it's just finding that track and finding where you can keep that purpose and direction and focus going, and obviously having something, I think, equally importantly, to keep the little grey cells rolling.
I think that is actually the most important thing. I mean, as well as you need to try and keep reasonably fit, but I mean, I don't go
Yes.
to the gym or anything like that. I mean, I walk and, do things, but actually keeping your brain active is really, really important. And I can't emphasize that too much, because I think it's very easy for people just to flop around and watch rubbish telly and all of that. Well, it is, but there are
Have
so
you
many.
ever flopped around and watched rubbish telly?
Well, I occasionally do.
Oh, go
but,
on,
you
give
know.
us the one. Give us the one. What was your last indulgent pleasure on TV then?
Oh, crumbs! What was my last
A quick
indulgence?
sidebar there.
Oh,
Have you
actually,
ever
I
done...
no. I will tell everybody this thing now, that one of my indulgences is watching Pointless.
Oh,
Indeed. There you go. I was expecting you to say The Real Housewives of Beverly
Oh,
Hills.
for goodness sake, David. No. If I'm in,
or Yes Minister, Jenny, or Yes Prime
yes,
Minister.
no. Yes Minister is not mindless telly.
No, that's so
Yes
true.
Minister is almost an historical documentary.
Exactly.
No, if I'm in, and it's 5:15, I will quite often switch the telly on and listen to Pointless.
But more controversial comment on that. Has it still got the same impact now Richard Osman has left?
Well, they have this sort of rolling group of guest people, and some of them are better than others, put it like that.
Although, in saying that, you may, I mean, I don't know if you do watch, but if you were a fan of If I Got News for You,
sometimes I watch it. Yeah.
I mean, they obviously, as you may remember, many moons ago, they lost their regular host.
They did.
Go down that route.
We won't know, thank you.
Exactly, but they have sustained that show on guest presenters.
They have, yes,
for about 15 to 20 years, very successfully.
They have, but of course, the continuity with Pointless is Alexander Armstrong.
That is true. That is also.
No, but anyway, sorry, we should not be talking about Pointless. But you did ask me.
Not done yet. It's to actually say, look, there are things that you probably, would have done that you wouldn't have done previously. Like, what are the sort of things that you've done in retirement that you thought you would never do in retirement?
You just stole my question now. I was going to exactly ask that.
And I was going to have a quick roll to do a quick break.
Things that I thought I'd never do. I find that one quite tricky.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off.
No, because I don't know that it was anything I thought I'd never do.
Okay.
I mean, I've got involved as a trustee with various charities.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose I would never have contemplated that I would become a member of the chapter at Exeter Cathedral, which I'm one of the non-executive members of the chapter at Exeter Cathedral. That was something which I hadn't anticipated at all. I mean, and I've got involved in 2 or 3 trusts that I wasn't really aware of before I retired, but through local contacts and things. So yes. I mean, I knew I wanted to spend more time in the garden, and so I've been doing that, which is good. Anything that question's really quite thrown me. I need to think about that.
The CSRF, the Civil Service Retirement Fellowship, is a charity set up for civil servants by civil servants. In 1960, Douglas Houghton MP highlighted the need for an organisation that supported retired civil servants offering friendship and companionship. 59 years later, we are still carrying on his dream. You can find out more about the CSRF at our website www.csrf.org.uk. Why not sign up to become a digital donor for £3, less than the price of coffee? Or you may wish to volunteer. Contact us via the website.
So just picking up that point that we were talking about before, I suppose my question, slightly angular to what Dee just asked, is if there was anything that was outside of your comfort zone in terms of what you've done since leaving work and going into retirement? I mean, obviously, I know you've not specifically, as you quite rightly said, have any direct experience of the prison arena, but IMB is not a million miles away from the justice system in that sense. Although I'm sure some of the skill sets that you learned doing that were very markedly different.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, you come across some things that you wouldn't otherwise come across. And so, you know, that environment can be quite challenging at times.
But has there been anything, I mean, talk about, you obviously mentioned about getting involved with Exeter Cathedral. Was that a complete step into the unknown for you? And if so, how did that come about? Was that someone, did they reach out to you? Was that something that when you moved into the area that you naturally became more involved in?
No, I mean, my involvement was quite unexpected, and I was approached by someone who was involved, who I knew from a previous existence, and he said, would I be willing to join the chapter and help, because they were having a particularly challenging time, and you know, I won't go into the details. And I sort of had lunch with this person and thought about it and thought, well, let's see if I can actually offer something here. And I am still there after 7 years or whatever. And in terms of the governance, I mean, a cathedral's a cathedral, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
But in terms of the governance of cathedrals, there have been major changes over the last few years, national changes, which means that every cathedral's had to rewrite its constitution and statutes and bring in more non-executive members, so that now every cathedral in England and Wales, I think, and Wales, has to have more non-executive members than clergy on chapter.
And what's the rationale behind that? I mean, I know we're not particularly want to dissect the Church of England, but
we haven't got time to dissect the Church of England.
Exactly. But
well,
is there a rationale behind that decision?
Yes, I mean, the rationale is to provide effective challenge and expertise that the clergy wouldn't necessarily have.
Would you say that would be comparable to the trend at some point in the civil service of parachuting private sector executives into the civil service to provide that business acumen that potentially people who were already in leadership posts in the civil service allegedly may not have had?
Up to a point, but the emphasis in the Church of England is on people who are non-executive, so they're providing constructive challenge to the executives. I mean, in practice, the dividing line between executive and non-executive can be a bit permeable, because if you've got specific expertise in one area, then you're more likely to get slightly more dragged into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean, particularly as I think a lot of cathedrals are under-resourced for, you know, financial and other reasons. So, but that was something new. I mean, you know, I was already a practicing Anglican, but at parish level.
Yeah.
And so having being brought into the cathedral environment in quite a detailed way was new, incredibly interesting, very challenging at times. I mean, particularly during COVID, because of course, you know, 4 years after I retired, we had COVID.
Yeah.
5 years, whatever. Which challenged, you know, every organization, didn't it? So, you know, we all experienced issues there, which we hadn't expected to.
Indeed. No, that's very true. Dee, you were going to ask?
Yes, a quick question. Now that you've been retired now for, you know, a considerable period of time, do you find that you experience issues around ageism, and do those issues kind of, or put it this way, what you thought about ageism before you retired, how does that now fit with what you think about ageism now that you've retired? And have you faced anything like that?
I haven't particularly faced it. I mean, I'm conscious myself of getting older and not being able to do some things that I was able to do before, because, you know, bits of you do start to wear out, I'm afraid, and there's not much you can do about it.
That's for sure.
But in terms of ageism, I don't think I have. And I mean, when I was 70 last year, and I think 70 is the new 60 or whatever, because I mean, my experience is that people sort of take you as you are and don't tend to be too troubled
How
by
many of the birthday cards on your 70th birthday had crass ageist statements about, oh, you're getting on a bit, are you over the hill? Oh, you're still alive, oh, you're still doing really
Not
well.
many, not many. No, not many.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know.
So I don't think that I've really experienced ageism.
Well, I think that's interesting, because I think as people who are not quite at the retirement age, the specter of aging is not something that Western societies embrace in a positive way. So you don't, it's not something that's revered, in relation to wisdom.
No, it's not. No.
And we treat our mature people in a particular way. So I feel like a lot of people, when they think about retirement, they think about not having that, kind of positive cultural identity. But when they actually get to retirement, they realize that it's not necessarily everything that they've been told to think about.
Well, yeah, and I think that's an important point you've made there, because it's important for you to think about it in your own terms, not in the way which some people might try and portray it. Because if I go back to, I think, my answer to your first question, I saw it as going on to the next phase of my life, not, oh, I'm getting so old, I've got to give up work, but
Hmm.
but thinking, well, there are things that I can do and things I should do and things I might not want to do, and I now have that freedom
Is
to
bungee jumping out then, Jen?
explore. Sorry?
Is bungee jumping out?
I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed, because of a problem with one of my eyes. This specialist at Moorfields Hospital said to me, "Please do not try bungee jumping." I told him there was no risk of me trying bungee
And
jumping.
here we are. We were going to try and inveigle you into doing a charity bungee jump.
No way. Absolutely not. No,
But
no.
I think, to speak to Dee's point, I mean, I think there is, I mean, a lot of, I mean, one in particular, Centre for Aging Better, which you may have heard of as quite a well-known research body that does lots of reporting on all sorts of different aspects of later life, particularly, have a major campaign about ageism in the workplace, and particularly the trend in some sectors of in the work environment where older workers, if they have got to find new work at a later point in their life, have increasingly more challenges to obviously cut through
Yeah.
in the recruitment process than those who are perhaps younger. And I think it can be, I certainly, depending on where you're at, I suppose, with what financial opportunities you have in retirement, that could be a serious consideration, because if you're actually leaving the civil service as a sort of, you're partially retiring, but you still accept the fact that you might need to top your pension pot up by
Yeah.
getting other work, that could present an equal problem. But it's good that you've not experienced that directly.
It could, but of course there are at least, well, I don't know quite how many employers there are, but some well-known employers who actually value recruiting older people for their reliability and their commitment.
Well, I think B&Q
Well,
is
that's the one I was
isn't it?
thinking
Yeah,
of.
that are very well known for most of their in-store helpers, I think, are
Yeah,
sort of a certain age, should
that's
we
right.
say, who go around and obviously provide very useful help for when people are looking for paintbrushes or a particular, screwdriver or whatever it may be, or whatever brings them into B&Q. I probably don't.
Waitrose. The Waitrose in Exeter has a part-time employee who's in his 90s,
There you go.
and he says he's going to carry on for as long as he can get up the stairs to the staff room.
Well, I think that's a really important point, because
It
it's
is.
about mindset. I mean, and you mentioned that earlier, Jenny. You said you didn't perceive it as, I'm no longer at work. You said, what's the next chapter? And
Yeah.
what's the next chapter has a sense of adventure. It's exciting, as opposed to thinking, oh, I'm not purposeful now because, I'm not a young person, or my circumstances have changed and I'm in retirement. And I think it's the mindset is key to a successful life and a successful retirement, because it's about your own sense of self-perception.
It is. No, it is. And I mean, I tend to have a reasonably positive attitude towards life, I think. And I do believe that to be important.
Mm.
Um, I mean, you've got to take care of yourself and make sure you don't get over ambitious about what you might physically be able to do, for example.
Hmm.
But and a lot, I think a lot depends on your health. If you keep reasonably healthy, and some things happen out of the blue which are completely unexpected and which you couldn't have done anything about, and that can alter the way that you then spend the rest of your retirement. And I'm very conscious of that, and
Hmm.
relieved that so far, such health issues as I've had, I've managed to deal
Yeah.
with the help of my medics and things. So yes.
Is there something particularly that you've learnt about yourself in the sort of 10 years or 11 years, I think, since you retired now, that you didn't know before? I mean, obviously, as part of that voyage of discovery in the next phase of your life, has that opened up bits of your personality that you were unaware of, or you discovered you suddenly had a particular penchant for something that you didn't realize you were, because it is, if you're dealing in a completely different arena, which you would
Yeah.
be in retirement, that could be to self-discovery and what you discover about yourself, as much as obviously what you encounter in everyday life on a sort of day-to-day basis.
I don't think so, really. I mean, what I have discovered is I'm very bad at saying no. If
Is
somebody
that a
says,
bad thing?
yes, it is, because if somebody says, "Oh, Jenny, we'd really like some help with this," I'm really bad at saying no.
I'm going
And
to
I
say
went,
now, oh, Jenny, we have a vacancy on the
yeah,
CSR
quite
board of directors.
absolutely, absolutely, because I went through a period when I thought I had taken on too much. Something's got to give before I do. Um,
So
yeah.
so I think it's very clear for anybody listening who is going to be saying, this lady, she's just swapped one high profile job for a whole series of other things that she's doing. Taking away all of the work, which it still sounds to me that you have been doing. I know you mentioned gardening briefly as a, if you like, hobby. What other, now, if I'm reading your Wikipedia page, and you'll be able to tell me how correct this is or not. Your Wikipedia page says you are a huge cricket fan. Is that correct?
It is.
There you go. But have you found time in retirement to watch cricket?
Well, I don't watch as much as I used to, but I found it quite difficult for a while because, I mean, well, as David knows, but for anyone who's listening, my husband died about 8 months after I retired, which wasn't it wasn't part of the plan, and we had
No.
gone a lot to cricket a lot together, and I found it quite difficult for
Yeah.
some time to actually go to cricket matches. A friend kindly, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, took me to the cricket at Taunton, which was very nice, and I enjoyed it. And I thought, yes, I can do this again. But I've been bad at planning it. But I do enjoy going to cricket and watching cricket. Yes.
What other enjoyable pastimes? Now, I know reading is one of your
Well,
pastimes.
it is, as you mentioned to begin with. I'm a member of one of the CSRF's book groups, so that's fun. And I on and off I go to another book group locally, but I mean it's more off than on at the moment because I don't seem to have had much time to read for a whole variety of reasons. And I go to the cinema. And we're
What's the last
fortunate.
movie you saw?
Well, actually, I was about to say we have a film group here which
Yeah.
operates through the winter, and so the last one I saw was what's it called? Wicked Little Letters. One with Olivia Colman and
Oh, that Poison Pen in a Village.
yes, that's right, yeah,
Yes.
which based
Yeah.
on a true story.
And
Um,
you enjoyed it?
I did. A friend of mine said it was rubbish, but I actually much enjoyed it. And we have National Theatre Live
Yes, which is
here.
very good, actually.
It is very good. And so I enjoy going to those productions because it means that I see West End productions
Without the hassle of travelling into London.
without the hassle of getting a long train journey to London. It's not quite the same, obviously, as being in the audience of a live theatre, except you do get the close-ups of the actors, which if you're sitting a few rows back, you don't
Yeah.
get to see. So that's, yes, that's good.
I know you poo-pooed, not poo-pooed, but you did mention travel as a
No, I travel.
passing comment.
I
But you
travel.
mentioned trains. I think if my intel reminds me, Did you not have a rather special travel journey on the Orient Express?
I did. Yeah, just before COVID.
There you go. Tell
A
us about
friend,
that.
a friend and I, we did the Orient Express. I've never spent so much on a holiday in my life. Okay? So
Glad you did though.
we flew to Venice, had
Yeah.
three days in Venice, and then we got the Orient Express to Prague, had 2 nights in Prague, and then got the Orient Express back to, well, Calais or near Calais, and then went then
Back on British Rail.
well, not quite on yours, but anyway, yeah. So that was great. I'm ever so pleased we did it when we did.
Oh right, yeah. Well.
And actually, last year, to mark my 70th birthday, I went across the Atlantic on the Queen Mary and then had 5 nights in New
Wow.
York.
Oh, fabulous.
So I celebrated my birthday on the Queen Mary.
Wow.
And was it everything you thought it would be?
Yeah, but it's actually weird. Well, not weird. A transatlantic journey like that on sea is very strange because you get on the ship, the liner at Southampton, and then you get off in New York. You don't stop anywhere. And for 4 days, I think, we didn't see a thing other than sea.
Wow.
So you were doing a lot of promenading, were you?
What was the skies like? Did you see a lot of stars? And what were the sunsets like? Because I went on a cruise, and one of the lovely things I liked was just going on the balcony and looking out of the sea and realizing how tiny I was in the scheme of things. And number two, the beautiful sunsets and the beautiful stars.
We didn't get many sunsets. I mean, it was quite grey, actually, most of it. But you do feel how vast the Atlantic is.
Oh,
Absolutely vast. Because as I say, I mean, it's not like being on a cruise where you stop places. I mean, this is not a sightseeing thing. You are going across the Atlantic on a transatlantic liner.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, I missed the pod of whales because I was at a talk in the theatre when they said, pod of whales on the starboard side or whatever. And I thought, oh dear, well, I can't. By the time I get there, they'll have gone.
yeah.
It was fascinating and I enjoyed it. And then I had 5 nights in New York, which I'd
What was
never been to New York before. And
And what was your view of New York art? Is it what you expected it would be?
yeah, it was like being on a film set to begin with. It was all these sort of taxis and, the streetscape.
Yeah.
And the brownstone buildings and people sitting on the steps and things like that, and the fire hydrants. It was all the sort of things you see in films. No, I really liked it. Yeah.
And in terms of the actual, obviously, cruise, if you were going to rate which was better, Queen Mary or the Orient Express?
Oh, I don't think you can. I mean, they're just so different. And what I said to people at the Orient Express is you've got to remember, this is not 21st century luxury. This is early 20th century. And so, there's only one loo for the whole carriage. There are no showers.
No
So-
showers.
No showers. I mean, you're on it for one night.
They're all aghast, bar Jenny.
Just
You're on
shows how resilient Jenny is. Well,
But,
like,
but you didn't. I mean, Agatha Christie went on it. She didn't have showers.
Well, that's true. But although that does raise an interesting point about that whole compatibility. And I think certainly for me, the older you get, the more requirement you have for personal comfort when you're
That is true.
traveling, I have to say.
That is true. But I mean, yeah, but for one night,
Yeah.
you can manage without a shower.
I suppose
for one night.
I mean, I did on that point. I mean, actually, during my time with CSRF, something which I'd never done before is I visited our Inverness group and I did the sleeper.
Oh yes, yeah.
From London to Inverness, which you sort of wake up. The best bit of that, I think, was early morning, rolling through the Highlands while you're having breakfast. In the same way that when I worked even more moons ago for Missions to Seafarers, which I actually mentioned briefly on the last episode, and I was stationed in Mombasa in Kenya, I did the overnight train from Mombasa to Nairobi, which went all the way through the Tsavo Game Reserve, which was obviously more impactful than the Highlands.
Yeah.
Similar experience, but I didn't bat an eyelid when I was only aged 18 at the time. 4 people in a cabin. There was, you didn't pay any attention to where you're going to shower or the rest of it. the sleeper from London to Inverness. I'm pretty sure I thought it did have a basin in the room.
Yeah, we had a basin. Oh yeah.
But it obviously it didn't have. That was about the sum title of the mod cons involved. So but
it was beautiful. But I mean, it was beautifully appointed.
Yeah,
I mean,
I sort of imagine it being like an Agatha Christie set.
It was, yeah. And I mean, the dining areas were just lovely, Lalique glass and all that kind of thing. It was just beautiful, and the service was excellent. 5-star plus.
But Dee, you are an embracer of camping, though, aren't you?
Well, I am. That's the point I was going to cover. Your comfort zone. I think, like you're saying, if you think about what luxury would have been when the Orient Express was at its height, that was the epitome of Concorde during the 70s.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas when you come out of your comfort zone, to me, that's when you grow. You only grow when sometimes you have a significant amount of discomfort, because routine creates peace, whereas no routine doesn't create peace. So you are then finding the mechanisms so you can have peace. So, it might not be a shower, it might be a basin, or, you get off the train and you use the stop and use the bathroom at the station, but it's about being adaptable. And I think it comes down to the previous point we made about your frame of mind. Sometimes some things are only a little bit of discomfort, but then for one person, it's a small discomfort. But for someone else who thinks the same way, it's like, it's the end of the world.
It wasn't.
Exactly.
It wasn't the end of the world. It was great.
Thank God.
What's on your travel docket for this year, Jenny? Have you got any new places to discover?
Well, yes. Well, since you asked, next Tuesday I'm going to Uzbekistan and Tajikistan.
Wow. You need to give us more than that as a throwaway comment, Jenny.
No, well, I am. No, it's part of the old Silk Road.
Right.
And so, yes, so I'm going with a friend of mine who suggested it, because she's spotted this and thought this sounded interesting and said, was I up for it? So I thought, well, why not? So we fly to Tashkent on Tuesday evening.
At least you're flying in the opposite direction from where you might be needing. Presumably you're going reverse way round from where World Challenges are currently.
No, because I'll tell you when I got there. I mean, I was a bit concerned as to how far the recent events in Iran might impact, but I think because we're going straight there, we miss Iran. I mean, it's sort of northeast of Iran, and there's a couple of other countries in between, I think. But we are, we're north of Afghanistan. I mean, it is very much. These were old Soviet socialist republics, so they're part of the USSR. They're now independent states. So I've never been to that part of the world before. So, and I say this is the old Silk Road, or part of the Silk Road, from China through to.
Sounds amazing. What's on your itinerary for the trip?
Oh, it's very complicated. But I mean, we go to places like Samarkand in Uzbekistan. So we fly to Tashkent, which is in Uzbekistan, and have a night there. Then we go to Tajikistan, where we've got 5 nights, I think, going around various places, and then back to Uzbekistan and around some of the big sites there. So yeah,
it's going to be an excellent trip. I would love to go to that, because one of my ambitions is to go to that part of the world. I want to see all of the stans, because there's quite a few of them.
There are a few, yes.
There's loads of them, and I think the importance of travel is that it actually makes you learn new things.
You
does. Other people's cultures. You can go and see for yourself, as opposed to be told this is what these people are like. And I think that's wonderful. So
it should be interesting.
Well, top of my bucket list for when I get to retirement, I would love to do the Trans-Siberian Railway.
Yeah.
Because I remember many years ago, there was a superb, I think it was the BBC, Peter Ustinov did a TV series where he did the whole length. Now, obviously, he spoke fluent Russian and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But I think you still can. I mean, although certain parts of it are probably slightly more deemed a bit more dangerous than they were a few years back. But I think you still can do that whole crossing the whole of Russia. And Russia was obviously on was on one of my checklists with places to go the year COVID hit, which was very annoying. And then obviously other things unfortunately transpired, as we need to go on to on this particular podcast. But that obviously meant that now that's not a destination that is recommended.
No, it's not, I'm afraid.
Sadly, by the Foreign Wildlife Office.
No, because it's such an interesting country.
Yeah, exactly.
Such an interesting country that, it's yeah.
So you've got, that's one. Any other trips over and above?
No, I haven't got beyond that one yet.
So will you go back on the cruise liner though?
Well, no, I was not on a cruise liner. I was on a transatlantic liner. Big difference. Cunard get very fussy about that. Well, I've done
would you consider cruising?
Oh, I've done river
you have
cruising.
done cruising.
Yeah, I've done cruising before. So yeah, yes, I would. The right boat and the right places. Yeah.
And no dips in the Atlantic when you go down, because those are very uncomfortable. I did that one once and it was horrible.
Really?
Yeah, we went to the Basque region, and then they said that there's this like a basin or a plate when the boat is going, and it basically just it dipped like this, and you felt it. So you realize just how small you were on the ship, because you could have been lunch. Thankfully not.
Yeah. Gosh. Yes.
Well, Jenny, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, look, any more thoughts? Because I was just going to say to Jenny, you've given us your thoughts about, what's happening in the future. You're going on your holiday trip. You spoke about all different things about not being done yet. And I just thought today was a really kind of a interesting opportunity for us to learn more about you, and also why you are not done yet. And I think that's what we want with these podcasts. I mean,
absolutely.
how have you felt about doing that? I mean, have you done anything like this before?
No.
I know people in the comfort zone then.
Well, it's been fine, When it helps that I know David a bit, so it feels like a conversation, which is what good podcasts are about, aren't they?
Indeed. No, that is very true. It does make a difference, I think, if you have some affinity or some connection with somebody who you're talking to. I suppose what I would like to ask you, obviously coming towards the top of the hour, and obviously, as we wind up this particular episode.
Yes, I need a cup of tea. We old ladies need cups of tea.
Only a cup of tea.
Got my flask. Got me
glass of sherry. I think you deserve after that one.
No, a cup of tea. Too early for sherry.
But I suppose, of all the things you've encountered, so far, and obviously your journey is still a long time to go. You're only 10 years into, that particular chapter. What golden pieces of advice, if you were going to dilute it to anybody who's about to retire, would you offer them based on things that perhaps you thought would happen one way that didn't, or, generally speaking, if someone said, Jenny, we're thinking about retiring, what would you suggest? How would you approach it? I know you've given us little hints in the course of the last sort of 60 minutes about various elements, but if you were going to dilute that into a piece of salient advice for anyone listening.
Don't be afraid of trying new things. And make sure you maintain your friendships and that you're open to creating new friendships. Because you meet all sorts of people with great, back life experience and things if you are open to that kind of thing. So don't be afraid to try things.
I think that's excellent advice. And I think the whole don't be afraid full stop before you even add anything else is probably the most important thing. I mean, I mentioned earlier about being afraid about retirement. I shall take that and heed that about embracing things. And also, I think there is a certain degree, I mean, with not going into sort of gender specifics at the end of the thing, but men are less sociable, I think, certainly.
Women live longer than men. That's what the annuity rates tell you.
That's true. No, but it is true. That is true. But I think, I'm a trustee of our local Age UK in West Sussex, Brighton and Hove, and a lot of the initiatives. Similarly, we're actually with the Civil Service Retirement Fellowship. Most of our groups are ladies who go along, and it's almost like you recall, oh my goodness, there's a man in the group.
I know, yeah,
it's like very surprising, because I think Age UK did that very good campaign, which I don't think lasted a huge.
No, they did Men in Sheds.
Men in Sheds, exactly.
And I thought it
was a great concept.
It's great, but I think it's sometimes I think we need to accept it's not easy for people to go out and allow themselves to be new.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there are times, but there are times I remember, I've had to say to myself, for heaven's sake, woman, you're 65 or whatever, you can go in there and, talk to people. But sometimes you do have to, talk sternly to yourself and say, yes, I could stay at home and watch the telly and watch Pointless. or I could actually go and do something. So, and I think it's important to try. And if you don't like it, you don't have to stick with it.
It's also about allowing yourself to make a mistake and not feeling
Absolutely,
crushed.
Mm.
Because
absolutely.
sometimes I
And
think the word mistake is even the wrong thing. It's like I call them building blocks.
yeah,
Sometimes
no, I
blocks don't
agree.
work. So
I
try a
agree.
different block. So I feel like you go to these places and sometimes it's hard because you were in a high-powered job, you were important, and somebody might not speak to you in a way that you think is appropriate, and that could leave you, crushed for 6 months.
Well, no, I'd answer back.
Yeah, me too.
From my years of knowing Jenny, I can testify. I will remember. I mean, this is something. Just as a small anecdote towards the end, and she may shoot me for saying it. I remember she was very cross with me at one
Surely
point,
not.
because my former boss was given an MBE in the honours. And at the time, I drafted a press release to go out to say to people, congratulations to our boss. She's been acknowledged in I think it was actually the Queen's honours. So it's a birthday honours rather than the New Year's one. And I remember talking to our mutual friend, Ben, who at the time was working as press officer for Jenny at the Supreme Court. I said, I've just done this press release, blah, blah, blah. And I remember getting a slightly what I perceived as being a gentle telling off about, well, I really think you should have told the board before the press release went out. And I was duly chased. I was told very nicely told off about knowing my way in
I've
which
forgotten that.
protocol was done in the right way. But that seems a good note on which to wind up. But I would just like to say to all of you listening, it's been a huge pleasure for us to have Jenny on this episode today. And
Yeah.
we hope that you have learned a little bit about what she has learned from being in retirement.
Felt inspired as well.
And inspired, absolutely. And if you've not subscribed to our channel on YouTube, click I think it's a bell button, isn't it?
And select all.
Thank you very much. My partner in crime is Nose to Jen. And do spread the word. And if you've been inspired by anything Jenny has said to want to be a guest on a future episode, please reach out to us through the CSRF website and obviously let us know. We've got plenty more episodes coming up. We're interviewing more CSRF royalty in the coming weeks. We've got Dame Elizabeth Gardner, who's joining us in a couple of weeks' time. We've got former interim chair Michelle, and Jenny will also know former interim vice chair Sue, who she worked alongside, both joining us as a double act. As Michelle said to us, not quite Mel and Sue, but Shell and Sue, which I thought was quite a good opening line. She's given me my opening line for that intro without even doing it. But all it remains to say is we hope you've enjoyed it. Just remember, you're not done yet. The world is your oyster and life is your next chapter. So thank you very much indeed for listening. And we look forward to picking you up on the next episode.